So today, guys, we're gonna talk about yellow teas. And before Boyka comes here, I just want to show you. So we all used to Gong cha, brewing teas, in all these fancy vessels. But yellow tea, as told by the tea master, who's making this tea, Yun Yao and many other tea masters, is actually, they believe, is best enjoyed in a very simple way, which is called like a grandpa method. So let me, for a second, I'm gonna mute you guys, and so it doesn't get interrupted. So this is a very simple way of brewing tea that probably all of us or any of us can appreciate, especially when we're in a hurry and don't have time to brew. So you see, this is the yellow tea that we're brewing right now. It's comprised of like really small buds. And we just place it in a glass. It's a tall glass. It can be like a wine glass if you want to go a little bit fancy, or it can be just any tall glass. And you need just a little bit. If you saw how much I had in it, it's just like a pinch, like literally like a gram of tea, maybe gram and a half. And you go by eye, like it doesn't require any strict measurements or any of that. And you just pour hot water over it. It can even be boiling water, but I still prefer the regular water. And you see how the leaves are dancing, how, it's a beautiful dance of leaves. So they will be going up a little at first, and then as they get heavier, they will be sinking down, and they will be going down. And it's a beautiful dance of leaves that people enjoy. And once they sunk down, the tea basically, it cooled off enough so you can drink it. And as you go, you drink like 2/3 of a glass and you fill it up with hot water again. You drink 2/3 of a glass, you fill it up with hot water again. And it's a very economic way of brewing tea because it requires so little, and good tea can go on like this for hours without losing taste. And you don't need any fancy brewing vessels, removing leaves, or even paying attention, even though paying attention is always good. Requires a little bit of patience to wait for all the leaves, to go down, to sink down. But that's about it, a very simple way. And what it does, because of the shape of the glass, especially wine glass, where it gets narrowed down at the top, it enhances the aroma. It will complement the aroma of the tea. So we'll brew it, of course, both ways, but we'll go one way, we'll go another way. I don't know if any of you guys, hold on, and you can unmute now if you wish, and we can have a discussion. If you guys drink it this way, it's called, I don't remember if I mentioned it in the beginning, in China, this is called grandpa style or grandpa method. And this is how people in China, especially older generation, they just sit in front of the houses with their friends drinking tea like this all day long. So this is how they enjoy it. Have you experienced brewing tea this way?
This is my first time. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's delicious this way. Yeah. And it's fun to watch them dance. I love to watch them dance.
Yeah. And you can observe
like
the leaves, like at the bottom, just sitting there. It's like a flower or a field, like sometimes when you
usually I use a basket and then lift out.
Yeah.
And but I like that. But if you go to a Chinese restaurant, they leave the tea in. And and it just settles.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's a little bit similar.
When I was a kid, I remember this is how my grandfather, though he's not Chinese, this is how he was brewing tea. And at first, if you put like a little bit like over the top, if you put too much tea on the first brew, it may be a little bit like bitter, but on consecutive brews, it will get more and more mellow and pleasant. It just requires patience to wait for the leaves, to get filled with water, to get heavier, and sink down. Yeah. That's the only downside of this method, because patience is not one of my strongest sides, but it's a training in that, It's a good exercise in patience, I guess. Elliot, have you brewed tea this way?
Yeah. It's I'm trying to turn down the air. It might be less. Okay, there we go. There's a glass thermos that does something similar. You know that cylinder that works like a vacuum thermos, glass inside of glass. You know what I'm talking about, Mister?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I never had one.
So if you take off there's a filter on the top, which is designed just to keep the leaves out of your mouth. So that's kind of like an update on the grandpa style, because it keeps the tea warmer. I've done it all the time, but not recently. I've just hold on. I've gotten away from that. I'm glad you reminded me. For traveling, it's really good. If you can't, if you on a road trip, you can fill it up hot at a gas station, and it's good for about 100 miles.
Right, but it works, as I understand, in a little bit in a different manner, that you have to flip it one way and then flip it back. So you flip it to infuse it, and then you flip it back, to drink, right? You like turn it.
Yeah, no, the one that I'm talking about is even more primitive. You just unscrew the top. Very low tech.
Gotcha. So here's Boyka joined us. Hey,
Hello,
Boyka.
Hey, everyone.
And you know,
Hi,
Boyka,
nice to see you.
hello. Boyka, I
Hi.
must go now. I'm glad to see you. See you another time when you do more of these. Okay, bye, everybody.
Oh,
Bye.
thank you.
Alright,
Glad to see
bye,
everyone here.
Bye.
Misha, your
Boyka.
blogs and Boyka, the blogs are wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much.
They are so wonderful. Yeah.
I'm really happy you enjoyed them. Thank you.
Yeah, so Boyka, right now, I showed how to brew tea like grandpa style, the yellow tea in a glass. So
Nice.
I'm waiting for the leaves to settle down. But you don't have to
Good.
wait for me. You can take over from here.
I see you have upright butts here and there.
Yeah. Just a few
It's
of
really
them.
nice.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good side that you can enjoy specifically when brewing those, unoxidized to lightly oxidized type, but only types of tea.
Yeah, and what's good about brewing yellow tea Huangya, this style, is because it's comprised of buds and it's also not a green tea, it's yellow tea. It's hard to overbrew, it's hard to make it bitter because the tea naturally not bitter, it has the sweet taste. So
yeah, especially this is what you say is so true, especially for yellow tea. It has this natural mellowness and lack of astringency that is sometimes found in tea like green tea, especially green tea or younger teas. That here is virtually not present. And yes, as you say, you can brew it over and over. You can, it's very forgiving even when you steep it for longer. And on more subsequent brews, it is hard really to perceive any kind of bitterness or astringency in yellow tea.
Yeah, so now pretty much all the leaves except for one, they settle down. So I'm gonna take a first sip, see how it came out. It's very sweet. And the aroma, you can feel the aroma. So I still prefer, to be honest with you guys, I still prefer it Gong Fu way, but this way it's also very enjoyable. So until we finish, talking about yellow tea, I'm gonna drink it from the glass. I'm just gonna enjoy it this way. Cheers.
Cheers, Misha. So let me take it from here. You have been experiencing yellow tea for some time now, from the start of this meeting, along with Misha. So yellow tea is indeed a rare tea. It's not that it's really that uncommon, but it's kind of less known of. It's kind of unusual type of tea to have even in tea's home country, which is China. It still remains somehow enigmatic and kind of wrapped in mystery. So compared to other tea types like green or black or even heicha, dark tea, it seems like fewer people are actually aware of yellow tea. And when I say that, I mean not just as a type of tea, but in terms of history, in terms of production ways, and in terms of the tea's innate properties. So when we're talking about yellow tea, of course, starting with the basics, it's one of the 6 main types of tea that originated in China. So we refer to it as one of the 6 main types of Chinese tea. So it has been actually mentioned quite early. The first written, mentions of yellow tea go as far back in time as the Tang Dynasty. This is more than 1,100 years ago. But then again, when we're speaking about this time, these mentions are in terms of yellow tea being recognized as a tribute tea. So a tea that goes to the imperial palace, among others. However, something important when we're speaking about such ancient times, and when we go back as far back in history as a millennium ago, and speaking about tea, it is important to mention that yellow tea then and yellow tea now are 2 very different things. In ancient times, when we speak about yellow tea, it most likely points to the tea tree variety, rather than to the production and processing ways that we know and classify today as yellow tea. So yellow tea back in Tang Dynasty quite possibly refers to a tea tree variety with buds and leaves that have a natural yellow hue. Not necessarily and not really, because in Tang Dynasty, tea was processed in a way that is very different from what the tea processing in general and what the tea processing specifically of yellow tea represents now. In contrast, yellow tea that we refer to as for today is defined not really by the natural hue of the leaves or the buds or a specific tree variety. It's defined by its production process. And for yellow tea, when we speak about yellow tea, its production and its processing, more specifically its processing, is similar, very similar to this of green tea. So much that in fact, it is believed, it is recognized actually that yellow tea is a result of a mistake in the processing of green tea. So yellow tea was born out of a mistake. It seems that while in the phase of the drying of the tea leaves, of the green tea leaves, tea workers probably either shortened the drying time or they didn't apply enough heat in the process. And as a result, there was a dampness that caused the tea leaves and the buds to turn yellow. So at first, of course, it was considered a ruined batch of tea. However, a curious mind decided to try out these, so-called ruined tea leaves, and much to the dismay of everyone, discovered that they have an exceptionally smooth and mellow taste. And voila, this is how yellow tea was born. So again, we are speaking about a processing much similar to green tea with the adding of this extra step of yellowing, or menhuang as it is known in Chinese, which is actually the crucial step in the yellow tea production and largely defines the yellow tea's taste and overall quality. It really boils down to this one step to decide whether we will have an exceptionally good yellow tea, a fine yellow tea, or just a mediocre kind of yellow tea. So, speaking about how yellow tea is made, as we said, it is similar to green tea with the addition of one extra step of yellowing, or somewhere you can find it with as stuffing the yellow. There is not really a correct direct translation, as men in menhuang is used when people generally speak about cooking. It's slowly simmering and slowly stewing kind of some dish, and huang is the word for yellow in Chinese. So let's refer to it as yellowing. And so let's explore the processing steps one by one of yellow tea. So of course we start with the picking. For yellow tea, the picking season starts in spring, of course. It can start as early as March for the main provinces where yellow tea is being produced. And these are mainly Hunan, and Sichuan and Anhui. So of course, when we're referring to some mountainous regions with high altitude, they might have some longer winters over there that might delay the picking till, let's say, April. But generally, it is considered that all tea picked within the March-May period is considered a spring tea. So the picking is largely handmade. In China, this is the prevailing method of picking, and machine picking is rarely practiced, if at all, unlike other tea producing countries, especially in Africa or in India, that practice this kind of machine picking. So after the picking comes the next step, which is the fixing, or shating, killing the green, as it is also known. So during this step, the tea leaves are being pan-fried at controlled temperatures that might vary between 120 to 150 degrees Celsius degrees. This step, which is also very important for basically all kinds of teas except black tea, serves as, it actually destroys the activity of oxidation promoting enzymes, so it halts the oxidation of the tea leaves, and it also serves to get rid of part of the moisture that is contained within the tea leaves. After the fixing comes this crucial and specific for yellow tea processing step, that is manhuang, or yellowing. So during this step, the tea leaves for yellow tea are either wrapped in cloth or are piled in bamboo baskets or large bamboo trays. So under the impact of both humidity and heat, the inner content, the inner substances of the leaves undergo a specific transformation. On the outside, this is seen as the yellowing of the tea leaves. On the inside, it is largely the polyphenolic group that is being transformed in terms of chemical substances. And this is where the tea largely loses, yellow tea largely loses its astringency and its bitterness. So,
can I ask you a question
of
before
course.
we move on? So with green teas, when it goes through this initial step called shaching, it kills, you know, this it holds the oxidation process almost entirely, right?
Right.
So with yellow tea, does it subject it to like a lower temperature? So this shaching is not like total, you know,
It doesn't completely
kill.
erase the enzymatic activity. Well, green tea is in no way so temperature is very important in this step, because if tea leaves are subjected to a very high temperature, obviously they will be destroyed. So we have in mind here that we're speaking about really tender and really the most tender kinds of tea leaves. So this is like early, especially the early spring harvest. We're talking about buds only, mostly. So of course the temperature will be controlled according to the tea leaves type that we are pan frying. I cannot say for sure. I mean, yes, yellow tea leaves are subjected to a higher temperature compared to green tea during the shutting, during the fixing phase, because of course there are many types of green teas and at least several varieties of yellow teas, and it's really hard to make a comparison. However, I understand your question as you want to actually know whether the following oxidation that happens, the following transformation that happens, has something to do with the enzymatic activity.
Yes.
So largely it is considered that the fixing phase practically stops the enzymatic activity. So wherever, like largely, mostly, let's say 95% of the enzymes that are within the tea leaves are being destroyed during this phase. And in fact, it is considered that the following oxidation that happens during, let's say for yellow tea, this will be exactly in the yellowing phase, it is considered as a non-enzymatic transformation. So it is largely due to outer factors, so things like humidity and chemical reactions, but without the presence of the innate enzymes that are normally contained within the tea leaf.
I have a question.
Sure.
And it's just about the spring picking of the spring leaves. So
right.
Is it a particular kind of plant? And do they pick the whole plant? You know, leaves from all.
Yeah, I understand. I think I
plant.
understand your question. Yes. So when we're speaking about picking of the tea leaves, yes, we are referring to. We're speaking strictly about tea leaves picking. So when farmers and workers pick the leaves in the spring, they do so according to fixed standards. So these standards might vary from bud only, depending, of course, on the tea that is being made. The picking standards may vary from picking only the bud. So this is the unopened, most tender part at the very top of the tea tree branch. And then following to picking a bud and 1 to 2 leaves that have just started to open, and go as far as picking, let's say, the bud and 3, 4, even 5 leaves after the bud. So picking the bud, the very tender unopened leaves, the leaves that just start to open, and even more mature leaves that have been fully opened already. So these standards might vary, again, according to the tea type that is being made. Of course, there are teas that are bud only, so they comprise only the bud part. There are other teas that might include the bud and 1 to 2 leaves. And there are even teas that are primarily produced by just using the mature leaves. So these are sorted on a later stage after the picking. There is a so-called sieving for some tea types, where the teas are being screened actually and picked according to the type of the leaf, of the tea leaf that is needed for producing a specific type of tea. Okay, so hope this answers both questions.
For yellow tea, usually, you know, the usual picking is either bud and 2 leaves. It very rarely goes into more mature leaves, because more mature leaves, they usually go for production of oolong kind of teas. But also Sue asked if there are like certain cultivars that are just, you know, like used for producing yellow teas, or is it like the same cultivars that are usually used for like green teas? What kind of cultivars are usually picked?
Sorry, Misha, can you please repeat, because I have trouble hearing.
I think part of Sue's question, forgive me if I'm wrong, was whether particular cultivars are used for producing just yellow teas, or is it the same cultivars that can be used for producing green teas? You know, like, are there like particular types of plant?
Okay, well, practically you can use every cultivar that is being used for yellow tea production to produce also green tea. So let's not forget that yellow tea, in fact, emerged from green tea. So naturally, this means that all yellow tea cultivars are suitable for green tea production. With time, of course, there might be some specific, there might be some specific cultivars that yielded a tea that is specifically good for making yellow tea. But I honestly cannot quote such kinds of cultivars. So the cultivars that I know, for example, we have a cultivar in Sichuan that is an old local cultivar that is used for the production. It's the Laochuan cha that some of you might be aware of. So Laochuan cha is like an old local variety that gives an outstanding yellow tea. But at the same time, there are many producers that use it for green tea production. So I would say they are interchangeable. So again, personally, I don't have a knowledge for like a very specific cultivar that is only being produced for yellow tea. From what I know, all the cultivars for yellow tea are also equally good for green tea production. It's more the processing. Of course, there is difference, the processing techniques, and the specific steps that comprise the yellow tea production that define the character of the tea rather than the cultivar when comparing green to yellow. Okay, so yeah, we were at the yellowing phase, and the last thing to say about it is that generally different yellow teas require different time for this phase, and the difference might be as big as like half an hour or an hour or a couple of hours for some teas, and up to several days for others. So after the yellowing comes the final drying stage, where the tea leaves are generally dried for several times at a specific temperature. And for yellow tea and for high quality yellow tea, due to the tenderness of the material, these temperatures also might be lower than the temperatures that are being used for the drying of other types of teas. So speaking about yellow tea, when we talk about the production areas of yellow tea, there are 3 areas in China that produce probably the most famous and are connected historically to yellow tea production, and these are Hunan, Anhui, and Sichuan. That is not to say that yellow tea isn't found anywhere else. Guizhou, for example, is a province where that has been connected to yellow tea ever since the Tang Dynasty times. And this specific tribute yellow tea that we talked about at the beginning is related to Guizhou. It has been grown and produced over there. And even Guangdong, this very southern province, has its own version of yellow tea, which is really different also in terms of processing than other yellow tea types. And even I don't know much about it, so I cannot really elaborate on it, but it exists. And this is to show, because Hunan and Anhui and Sichuan, they are, when you see China on the map, they are kind of, okay, Sichuan is probably a bit southern, but they're like more centrally located. And Guangdong, for example, it's really down below. And yellow tea has reached even in these far southern corners of the Dan Empire.
And recently we were making an article on Vietnamese teas, and we were exploring Vietnamese teas production. And it seems like even Vietnam, they produce now yellow teas, even though in very small quantities. We haven't tried one, but it would be interesting to see what it's like.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Yes, that's true. And it seems also that Laos has their own version of yellow tea production. So yeah, apparently this is something that is of interest. And speaking about yellow tea production in this matter, it is also probably part of the reasons that make rare tea being so considered as so rare, because well, for better or worse, it seems that a very small part of the overall tea production is taken by yellow tea. In fact, lots of farmers, and they become even more apparently by the year, prefer to switch to green tea production. It is, of course, very profitable, as the green tea is the kind of tea that has the biggest output, not only in China. And of course, the processing of yellow tea it is more laborsome and requires specific skills, because when we're speaking about this crucial yellowing phase, it largely relies, where again, we're talking here about really high quality, good tea, where this phase is done manually. And it largely depends on the tea master's skill at this very moment. So it is up to one person and his ability to either have an outstanding tea or to have a totally ruined batch that is good for nothing. So actually, lots of people abandon this craft and switch to, more mechanized, more standardized kind of production. And only a handful probably of tea masters are still adhering to the old ways, to the ancient processing techniques of yellow tea.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. This, on one hand, this makes yellow tea even more rare. It makes it rarer by the year because there is less output, there are less tea masters that are aware of the proper producing techniques. On the other hand, though, I just wanted
to say that the tea master that we source, this particular Huang Yao from Mengding, Yun Yao, that his story is that he's a relatively young man. I mean, he's a young man, and he was learning, this craft from his tea masters and so on and so forth. And then when it came to producing his own teas, he wanted to concentrate mainly on green teas because making yellow teas is so laborsome, it's not so easy. But his tea master from whom he was learning and studying under, he said, no, you cannot abandon this craft because you have responsibility to the tradition and you have to continue. We were teaching you and you have to continue on this journey making yellow teas. So, and this is the tea we're enjoying now.
Exactly. Yeah, we are really lucky to have found Yun Yao as one of the few people who are still adhering to the old ways, and his Mengding Huangya is a truly outstanding kind of yellow tea. It's not just a yellow tea; it's actually a heritage, a cultural heritage, because the processing ways of yellow tea in Ya'an, the place where this tea is being produced in Sichuan, have become an intangible cultural heritage. And it is really great to have someone who still adheres to this cultural heritage and makes it possible for a larger international audience to have a taste of what it really represents. So
Trent wanted to say something. I'm sorry, and Sue.
Sure, please.
Yeah, I think two things. One, it from the farmer's perspective, it's like a heritage, organic vegetables, if you will, across the world. But it also strikes me as Patha Cha has a unique delivery by finding such special ways and teas and honoring them. And the producers, and set you apart, frankly, from the ones I've seen. Yeah, so
sounds great.
Please keep doing
you.
that. And yes.
Thank you.
And I just have a question about this particular tea that you're talking about today. So is it more the piled in a basket or wrapped in a cloth, do you think? Which, longer or shorter?
Yeah, when we're speaking about the highest quality yellow tea, so I mean bud only in this case, they are almost always, and I say almost just, for the benefit of doubt, because otherwise I would say it is imperative, for them to be treated with the utmost care and attention. So because of the tenderness of the material, they are usually wrapped in cloth. And it is done so also in small batches in order not to make because there is heat generated in this process and it needs to stay in control, you know, all this process, because otherwise, if the temperature varies uncontrollably, it will simply ruin the tea leaves in many ways. So in order to maintain a temperature, in order to treat the leaves with a very, with the utmost care, these buds for the Mangin Huangya that we are drinking right now is wrapped in cloth, and it is put aside in order to go through the yellowing phase. So as for the duration of the yellowing phase, it is certainly more than several hours. I think Yun Yao should tell us the exact length of this processing step, because I am not sure about it, and it's up to the tea master to say. Just a note, tea masters usually do not like to be interrogated lots about this, because this is also kind of, they're kind of secret. Every master has their own ways of processing, and there are, some, kind of special touches here and there that make up for the tea's unique character, or that are kind of a signature for this or that master. So they would definitely not disclose everything when they ask them.
But we even have photos on the, on the page for this tea. We have photos of Yun Yao wrapping this tea, in the paper and just putting it, on the shelves for the Menghuang.
Right. So yeah, I was, to wrap it up, we have been speaking about yellow tea being very rare and becoming even rarer by the year due to the small output, due to the constantly decreasing number of people who are aware of, the orthodox processing techniques, and even fewer people who are still adhering to them. But on the other hand, it generates another trend, making high quality yellow tea kind of a boutique product, which is really sought after, because it is not just a product, it's an experience. It's also a cultural experience in itself. And making this tea a sought after item by tea connoisseurs worldwide, it of course raises the price, but also generates interest, which in turn revives the tea production, the yellow tea production. So hopefully this trend will reverse, this process of losing the authentic, the orthodox yellow tea. Misha, I'm not hearing you. I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, forgot to unmute myself. Yeah. So there is also another trend that me and Boyka spoke about before, but you guys weren't there. So basically, because this tea is so rare and it's considered a boutique tea, so it has its own niche, right? So there are people seeking this tea in particular. And right now in other areas, in other than traditional areas, other than Sichuan, Anhui, let's say like in Yunnan, I've encountered it. There are different tea masters. They're attempting to come up with their own methods of making yellow tea that are less laborious and easier to make. And because they don't have this tradition, they count on their own ingenuity. So basically, there is an understanding that yellow tea stands somewhere between green tea and oolong tea in terms of oxidation. So basically what they do is that they make this low oxidized tea that is, in my opinion, much closer to Hongcha, to red teas, to what we call black teas, just a lower oxidized black teas. and they call it yellow teas, and this is their way of understanding yellow tea. And we had this discussion, this dilemma: can we consider it yellow tea? Because this is where the tradition is coming from, China. So if tea makers say, this is my understanding of yellow tea, does it make it yellow tea? Does it not make it yellow tea? So this is another trend that I wanted to mention. And there is no, of course, exact answer, you know, like there are just opinions on this matter. But in short,
Yeah,
this
of course.
is
I mean, when there are rules, there will be people that break them or find a workaround around them, and it kind of creates, you know, new products and probably new categories. Because, yeah, orthodoxally speaking, we're dealing with 6 tea types that are clearly defined in terms of production and processing. But when you start to play with these things, you know, you kind of break rules or bend them or curve them somehow. It apparently creates new products, and you probably, we will have to think about new tea categories soon. I don't know.
Yeah, just like a couple of months ago, I went to see this, you know, this person who has a flower shop / tea house in Brooklyn, and everybody was telling me about how great he is and how great his teas are. And he's a martial arts teacher and also an artist and calligraphy. And I was very intrigued. And me and my friend, we went to see him, and it was indeed a great experience. And he had some amazing teas, and it was wonderful. And at some point he said, I have this amazing yellow tea that you never experienced before, and this is one of the best yellow teas I've ever tried. And we were okay, we were like anticipating it, and he took out a cake of a pressed, what we thought of Hongcha, you know, of red tea. And it was indeed a very good red tea, just a very light, you know. And we were a little bit baffled, you know, why would he call it yellow tea? But we didn't confront him. We didn't want to
Yeah,
get into
right.
this conversation.
And you also have marketing coming up at a certain point.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, of
when
course.
speaking about those things. But yeah, it's a really it's an exciting, you know, merge of tradition and you know, modern times. So I'm curious to see what the future holds.
Indeed. So yes, so as I showed you before, this is the yellow tea that we have right now. Trent is well familiar with this tea already. He's been buying it since the day we announced it. But Sue, this is for you. You can see, I don't know if you can see clearly how small these buds are. And it's comprised entirely of
I better
buds.
get some.
And you can imagine, you can just imagine how much labor it involves, you know, to comprise like a kilo, you know, of this tea made of small tiny buds, how much tea they must collect. And now, before that, I was brewing it in a glass, but I'm out of patience, so we're gonna start brewing. I'm gonna start brewing it in Gaiwan, and because for me, this is still my favorite way of brewing it, because I can see, you know, so many different transformation of this tea.
Now, it looks to me, you were saying how you don't need a lot and it was just a pinch, but volume-wise, it looks like you have a almost a tablespoon, a loose tablespoon.
Because this is the tea, you know, when it's, I'm sorry, when it's
very light.
It's just when the tea is in a bud form, you know, and it looks very tiny, you know, at first, but once it's filled with water and starts opening up, the volume, you know, increases. So it's just like literally like what I took. At first, I even showed how much I took of it. Was literally a pinch. Was like no more than 1 gram of tea. But for Gaiwan, you use the usual ratio, somewhere between
Okay.
1 to 20, 1 to 25, 1 gram to 20 or 25 milliliters of water. So the
Okay.
ratio is pretty
Yes,
much.
I actually have been finding that I use more tea and steep it less long. And I've been
Yeah.
enjoying so much, and I appreciate this lesson because I'm learning a lot. I appreciate it. To learn.
And we appreciate you learning from us because this is what we're
Yeah.
here for, you know, and it's
Mhm.
very, very important for us to get this kind of feedback. And thank you so much.
One of the things I've been enjoying, this is totally aside, I got this cup and saucer last year. I was in Cape Breton in Nova Scotia. And one of the things I've found is that I like to pour the tea in this wide saucer. And to drink the tea that has had that air is so yummy. It cools off, you know, to just the right temperature. So I think you'd have to be really into tea to know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm telling you, because nobody else seems to care.
Yeah, but you know, it's funny that you mentioned it. I mean, funny, it's interesting because back in Eastern Europe, we have this tradition of drinking tea from saucer. So you brew it, you know, in a teapot, and then you put it in a saucer. And ancient tradition, you know, from back in the days, not ancient, but you know, all the tradition from like 100 years before, 150 years before. You usually even put sugar in your mouth,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
cube of sugar, because back then sugar was very often was like, you know, cube. And you put a cube of sugar in your mouth and you're sipping tea. So it goes through the sugar, you know, sweetens it. Or you put jam, you know, and stuff like that. So it's a well-known tradition to drink from saucer.
Yeah.
Sue, this tea is delicious. And also they have a green tea made by the same tea master that's delicious in its own right. Yeah. But I love the yellow.
Speaking of which, we were talking about the cultivars and how tea is made, which cultivars and so on and so forth. So both this Ganlu and this Huangjia, both of these teas they made from the same cultivar. And you know, in terms of picking, the same picking, it's comprised from buds, but one tea was made into green tea and another tea was made into yellow tea. And Trent, who had both of these teas, he can attest to how much different these teas are, right, Trent?
Yes. They're very, very different, very, very different. And the yellow is sweeter, if you will, mellow, almost honeyish. And the green, it's like being in a pine forest or in the woods, if you will. I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's delicious as well. Yeah.
So what is the green one called?
Ganlu.
Yeah.
Ganlu, which means sweet dew. And it's like one of the top quality teas. It's a very early spring tea and very well revered, like very famous tea. And we're anticipating, I just placed an order for another green tea, very fresh, beautiful green tea, Anji Baicha. It's a pretty rare green tea that is also very, very sweet and have this like nuttiness. So it should be here in a few weeks, like I hope in 3 weeks, but maybe a little bit longer. It's just such a pity because in China, as spring starts, these teas they start emerging. You know, they they start producing these teas, but by the time they reach here, it's already like well into the spring, and you're missing, this early spring pleasure of drinking this, when everything is blooming and you're drinking this fresh green tea, at the same time. So we have
Oh,
this
yes.
delay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anji Baicha, by the way, is a very curious tea. In fact, its name is a bit controversial because the direct translation of Anji Baicha would mean something like white tea from Anji, but it's not a white tea, it's a green tea. And the reason to be called so is because, the buds that the tea is comprised of, when picked, are covered in a thick, very dense white fuzz. And this is where the name comes from. And it is really a rare, I mean, not that it's rare, but it's a delicacy in the world of green teas. And its price, by the way, can easily outperform even tea like Longding, and I'm speaking about Longding from his, co-production area, which is already an expensive enough tea. But Anji Baicha is considered even more expensive than Longding. And one particular, property of this tea is that it is considered among the teas that contain most amino acids among all green teas. So basically, green teas are normally known for containing a high amount of amino acids, which contribute for this sweet taste note in the taste of green teas. But Anji Baicha is seen as containing like 6 to 10 times more amino acid than like a regular green tea, which on one side makes for a really outstanding taste with very prominent sweet notes. And on the other, it has a really very calming and focusing effect. It helps, concentrate and like focus the mind, because amino acids are among the components that regulate the action of the caffeine, that is otherwise contained in high amounts also in green teas. But the presence of amino acids helps to regulate and delay in time the absorption of caffeine, and puts us into this tea state, like being at the same time, focused, but very alert, but very relaxed at the same time. So,
that's
the
Anji Baicha.
Yeah, that's the Anji Baicha. So this is also probably partly the reason of its reputation and of its high pricing and high placement in the green tea classification.
All right, well, this was delightful. I think I'm going to have to sign off, but thank you so much for your generosity. And I tell everybody about you. It's such a unique opportunity to gather with you as knowledgeable people and business people and tea drinkers. And it's very special.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure,
And I
yes.
hope you can join us more often, and we'll drink more teas together. Cheers.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye, Sue. Okay.
Yeah, Lake joined us a little bit late, and she doesn't have a camera, so we can only chat with her. But hey, Lake, how you doing? Just wanted to say hello on camera to you. And Lake is drinking another tea of ours, the Dragon Pearls. And yeah, lately Lake been working in a Chinese tea house, in an authentic Chinese tea house. So yeah, we're very envious.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Next time. Yeah.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah. Next time we'll probably be meeting on International Tea Day, which is coming up next month.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it will be just around this time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nice.
And I like there are so many international days of this and that and everything that it's hard to keep up with them.
Yeah, well, it's good that one thought of having an International Tea Day too. And it wasn't so long ago. I think the first International Tea Day was back in 2019.
Oh yeah, they just
Yeah.
announced it.
Yeah, I was still in China when they kind of celebrated it, and it was marketed everywhere as the first International Tea Day, and then there were second, third, and so
But
on.
who's like coming up with these days? Is it UN or like
I think it's the UN. Yeah, I think it's the
Yeah.
UN.
Nice.
But
Nice.
I'm not sure who proposed it, to be honest.
Yeah. Trent, I wanted to ask you, did you make any poems for yellow tea? Because Trent is a poet and he writes poetry in Japanese
Oh,
style.
nice. Oh, great.
And yes.
Yeah. Yes, I haven't written about tea, no. Or perhaps I have. Not specifically, no. No. But I will. I'm on a project, as you know, right now. And when I finish this project, I'll venture back out into some
Okay,
things.
great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Do you have any poems that you would like to share with us at this time?
Sure.
We'd love to hear.
If I can access them without losing you. Okay.
I see. Yeah, if it's
Thank
too
you.
complicated, we don't want to put you on the spot. It's all right.
Let's try. All right, this is from chapter 24 of the Tao Te Ching. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. What I do is when I go through the Tao Te Ching, I reflect on it and take away my own reflection. Yeah.
Right.
So this is from chapter 24, and I titled it Gluttony. Okay. So slow down and reflect. Remember to stay grounded. Patience will prevail. Let go of image. See yourself in clear waters. True identity. Striving for the world, gluttony becomes the way. Master the true way.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trent. Thank you.
Allowing me to
Gives
share
a
that.
space for reflection.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful note to end our meeting at. And we hope to see you next time. That's gonna be in a month. And yeah, we'll try to make it exactly on the International Tea Day. So I believe it's also Sunday, so it fits well. And hopefully,
I ordered some more yellow tea.
Yeah, yes.
I ordered some more yellow tea Friday night, I think, or Saturday. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, good, because we have still
Enjoying
a little bit left. So
any idea when Dragon Wheel might you have any?
We ordered like a bunch of teas, like green teas and yellow tea, another yellow tea from Huashan, so from a different area, and this one is comprised like solely from buds. Another one, it's a little bit different. It has like a bud and two leaves, so they all on their way. It just takes time for it to arrive here. So I say about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. something like
Patience
that.
will prevail.
Yes, patience will
Yes,
prevail.
indeed.
It's so nice meeting both of you. And I wish you well.
Likewise.
Okay.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you so
Take
Be well.
care. Bye, Trent.
Okay.
Bye, Lake.
Bye-bye.